Hello, welcome to the Steam Game Festival of February 2021, where we are playing loads of demos. We are like closing it out now. This might be the last one, I'm not sure. This is Hermitage, Strange Case Files. This is a visual novel, I'm pretty sure. And first of all, look at this menu. I love how it moves, can I just say? Okay, yeah, I don't know what to expect. I never heard of this game, and then I just found it in the visual novel section, so let's just give it a try, because I do love a good visual novel. Alright. Left mouse button to continue. Log back. So can we kind of just play it all on mouse? That's useful. This game is purely fictional. All events, characters, and items in this game are fictional. Any similarity to any person or actual event is accidental and unintentional. Fair. Fuck. She keeps her eyes closed. She can't forget what happened. Hold on, because right. Earlier on, I accidentally tabbed out and I lost the audio. Alright, there's audio. Just check. There, it's back. There's something strange with the audio. It's a little bit buggy. Alright. Let's try not to do that again. She can't forget what happened because something still lingers in the air. Anger, maybe? No, it's not just anger. Maybe it's regret. A jumble of thoughts sweeps her mind and the icy air is burning her cheeks. Flying is more difficult than she thought. Looks like her soul didn't sprout wings after all. Somehow, it's like she's still here. She feels relieved at the thought. And thus, the game begins. Flying, eh? The world goes on. The clock is ticking steadily. The world doesn't owe anything to anyone, so it won't listen to anyone's requests. Even praying won't turn bad things into good things all of a sudden. Therefore, those who expect a lot from the world should overthink their attitude. Okay. There is no joy, no sorrow, just emptiness. The world feels heavy on her shoulders. Chapter 1, a day? Shit. Mentor. Long story short, we will focus all our energy on the preparations for this project. Although it will take place next semester, every day we slack off now means other art clubs have one more day to catch up to us. Keep in mind that our elite art club has a reputation to uphold. It is essential that we are victorious in the future. Okay, so what just happened? I know it's unusual for me to push you guys so hard, and I realize some of you might be uncomfortable with that. Think it over carefully, for your own good. I don't want any more incidents this year. That's all. Any questions? Society member B. What about the materials? If we're going to do oil paintings, the paint will be very expensive. That won't be a problem. Ah, your new classmate doesn't have any materials yet, does she? I'll prepare some for her. I saw her with some art supplies today. That's right. Let her use her own supplies. Alright. So there's no need to worry about it, is there? I feel put on the spot. Guys. Well, you can figure out a suitable solution amongst yourselves. That's all for today. Okay, our mentor just leaves us to it. I suppose... Is he our teacher? Like, at school? The girl has a problem. She suffers from nightmares, even during the day. Oh. Even when it comes to such a renowned, flashy school, the shadows are still everywhere, lingering. They are relentless. It took her a whole week to figure out where to hand in her homework. Nobody even considered offering her help. The teachers always seem to be in a hurry after class, avoiding contact with anyone. It's far from what she imagined. Something must be wrong with her. At least that's what she always tells herself. That's why she came here in the first place. Her family moves around a lot, and she could never depend on her friends. The only thing she can depend on is her hobby. She doesn't like to talk, and as long as she doesn't have to, everything's fine. At least this school has an art club. If she doesn't need words to go about her hobbies, presumably she won't need words to make friends. That's what she thought. However, her expectations weren't met. Still working on that piece? Just give up already. The girl's smile is mean, a prideful grimace to draw attention and show off to everyone around her. I hate these faceless girls. The painting is a little different from what she was imagining, but she's dealing with the past bit by bit after all. The paint is still wet, but once it's dry, she will pay more attention to the details. Come on, just leave it. You can't participate in the next event because you haven't done your part. Understand? It doesn't really matter anyway. The work should be more precise. You should have left room for another line right here. Who's talking right now? Oh, leave her alone. Anyway, she's gonna fall flat on her face anyway, thinking she can play in the big leagues. Those mean words cut deep like a knife, and sadly, it's a daily occurrence. Alright. I wish she'd be more self-aware and know what her place is. It's so annoying to have a newbie around. Come on, just let her sit here and rot. Just like a mushroom. Haha. That's clever. Bye. Remember what you're supposed to do. Bye, bitches. Uh-oh. They switch off the lights as they leave, forgetting the fact there's still someone in the room. Since there's only one window, the lighting in the art studio isn't exactly optimal. She doesn't feel like doing anything about it right now. Obviously, the fact they forgot she was in the room wasn't an accident. Gradually, everyone leaves the building and everything goes silent. Maybe mushrooms grow in silence, in isolation. She would prefer to be a mushroom right now. At least people aren't outright cruel to a mushroom. I don't know. I've seen people kick mushrooms. At most, they will casually crush it with one foot. That outcome doesn't seem so bad. What an odd thought to cross her mind. In novels, students are confronted with events like this over and over again. The readers might laugh at the repetitiveness of the author's writing. However, not many people will continue laughing once events like that turn into a cruel reality for themselves. Only once did she manage to muster up the courage to speak out against the people ganging up on her, but it made no difference. She put up a wall around herself for her own protection, her very own glass prison, protecting her from the cruel world outside. So she's being bullied is what I'm gathering, right? And then she just now doesn't want to talk to anybody. The whole world is against her, at least that's how she feels. In a novel, there would be two potential scenarios for her. Coming out of her shell and breaking the silence, or slowly but surely drowning in it. And she obviously doesn't have the right kind of personality for the former. The broom and dustpan are gone. She isn't surprised at the prank and just quietly closes the cabinet. The classroom is more cluttered than ever, and the crumpled up paper everywhere seem to be the trap that has been laid out for her today. She slowly picks up a piece of paper. Eventually they'll run out of ideas. Even if this young girl tries to deal with her emotions, the malice of the past doesn't look like it will disappear in the future. Even if she struggles to deal with her grief, the pain is relentless, taking up 24 hours of every day. Even so, she doesn't give up. So what happened? Like, why? I need more context. This is question marks. Ah, these guys are really... Should I turn on the lights? The shadows disappear and the room grows warm again. I figured you'd still be here. Let's go back together. Who was that? The world goes on and the clock keeps ticking. The world doesn't owe anything to anyone, so it won't listen to anyone's requests. Even praying won't turn bad things into good things all of a sudden. Therefore, those who expect a lot from the world should overthink their attitude. Right, we've already read that section before. What does this mean? What does this mean? Are we having a nightmare? Maybe that's why the moth is drawn to the flame. What was that? Store manager. That one goes there. This one... Okay, done. It doesn't really fit. Many people simply grab books, flip through them, and then put them back. Of course, they don't check where the book originally was. This means everything's an unorganized mess with different genres and classification thrown into one big, messy pile. Making sure everything is put back in its original place is probably more difficult than just placing it in the first free space you see. Alright, time for a break. There is no sense in asking too much of yourself. To be honest, I don't have a lot of confidence as a store manager, even though I've been doing this for the last 6 months. So we know this guy? I had my doubts at first, but whatever. Gotta earn money somehow. The landlord's out for my blood. Hermitage isn't just an ordinary shop. If customers are only looking for something to satisfy their desire to read, most of them won't find what they're looking for here. The literature here, from the folklore of Japanese scholars in China to propaganda transcripts of new religious groups in Southeast Asia, has piled up into such a vast ocean of books that even the owner has lost his overview. Wow. There's a lot of really obscure reading material here, and the only reasons why people stay here must either be the familiar smell of old books or that they're looking for some very specific research material. There's always an interesting conversation to be had though. I imagine, yeah. But it doesn't seem like there's any new customers around today. It's a bit niche. After all, the storefront doesn't look that welcoming to strangers. The few regulars who come are either very quiet or have chatted way too much over the past few weeks, to the point that they don't have anything interesting left to say. Skinny customer. The girl's hand rests on the edge of a bookshelf and she's silently moving her lips while browsing through the books. Over the last few months, she has become a regular visitor. Is this the girl from the intro? I like her. Quietness isn't a bad thing in itself, and she has always been polite and not at all annoying. What's more, she once bought Voyages of the Western Pacific in the shop, which instantly earned her some bonus points. I should try talking to her more often. I'm sure there's some good conversations to be had. I just need to finish my chores. So, okay, now isn't the time for a smoke. Yeah, okay. So this is the day, Monday. Conversations, bookshelf. Case files, thoughts. If I'm having trouble with something, smoking a cigarette opens up my mind. If I'm looking for information, I can always check out the bookcase. There aren't any noteworthy books right now. If there's nothing else to do, I sometimes go ahead and organize the shelves. There are still There are still customers in the store, so I should do my job as the store manager first. The customer seems to have something to say. Alright, autosave. So I guess this is what the game actually is, right? So I guess we need to talk. Only now do I notice how young she must be. Her uniform, consisting of a sailor suit and a long skirt, is quite well known in this city. If I remember correctly, the uniform is worn at a well-known private school. It's called Phoenix High School. I heard that they only accept female students and that it's one of the highest rated schools. Quite a feat. Its name sounds appropriately strong. She wears big glasses that cover a huge part of her face and is clutching a book under one arm. She holds it very carefully. It almost looks like she's carrying a small animal she's trying not to hurt. That's the one you want to buy today? Sorry, I'm just making sure. This time it's The Trail of the Missing Fish. Her reading interests are a little weird. She's been coming here more often lately and has slowly become a regular. This store isn't really that well known, so she must have heard about it somewhere. I've flipped through the trail of the missing fish before. The book is by no means interesting to read. It's more like an academic documentary. Something about ancient rituals and making sacrifices to a sea god. I have my doubts about its authenticity. The village itself has been abandoned for a long time, and its remains were almost entirely destroyed. The author cites a large number of folklore accounts to corroborate the details, but it's all mere speculation. An entire book full of ancient texts. While the content sure is interesting, the quality of the writing itself is lackluster. Why would a student be interested in the remains of a settlement whose name has long been forgotten? Sure, the shop sometimes gets a volume containing a rare piece of history that's significant, but the mysterious village, according to the author's nebulous sources, was a place where strange rituals were a common thing. It's actually quite scary to read. And that's not even the most troublesome thing. It's not that simple, I'm afraid. Huh? I can sense her confusion. May I ask why you want this book? Why? I'm just curious. I can't deny it. These things are very interesting to me too. There's more to this world than we know. The girl seems somewhat confused. Her blank eyes wander around the room. She does not want to talk to us. Can I please have it? I really need it. It's just, there are certain rules and guidelines I must follow. I'm sure you understand. The way the girl responds is somewhat unusual. Even though it's a strange book, she shouldn't be this embarrassed. Maybe she's really introverted? I don't know if the reason could be such a simple one. But yeah? Sure. It's okay. Or maybe... Everything alright? I don't need this book anymore. I'm sorry. I'll help you put it back. The girl takes a book from my hands and turns toward the bookcase. It's all very abrupt, and the way she moves is extremely clumsy. It's easy to see how nervous she is, and that she didn't think things through. Oh my god. Ah! Oh. What? She's just laying there on the ground, underneath a mountain of books. I can't even find the right words to describe the situation. All I can do is silently walk towards her and the literary battlefield. Sorry, I'm so sorry. My curiosity from a few minutes ago had been fully satisfied. Now she's acting like a woodpecker, keeping her head down and bowing repeatedly in apology. She looks like she's on the verge of tears. Come on, help me clean up. We need to get some sense of order back. If the actual owner saw this, I'd be kicked out in an instant. Of course. Really, I'm so sorry. The girl follows and helps me pick up the books scattered all over the floor. Every time she picks up a book, she opens it, rifles through the pages carefully. After making sure the pages aren't damaged, she carefully blows away the dust before handing the books back to me. Her hands are trembling. She's obviously scared and nervous. I mean, no harm done, right? Doing this in silence is only going to make the atmosphere even more awkward. Time to find something to talk about and lighten things up a little. So, your name is Cecile, right? Look at your student ID card. You must have dropped it when you fell. Ah, when did that happen? Relax, you're a regular here. I'm not angry because of a small accident, alright? Don't worry about it, really. Let's get back to topic. The book you want is a good one, sure, but it's also very rare and valuable. I can't see why someone your age would need it so badly. I can't just sell such a precious book to someone so young. Someone who still shows a lack of control. You know what I mean? What do you mean by that? The emphasis being on can't sell. If you can convince me, I might consider lending it to you. I'll lend it to you and you'll bring it back once you've finished. But don't go telling people about it. I don't usually make exceptions. I don't want to have to lie to people and pass it off as a mistake should anyone find out I made an exception. This copy of The Trail of the Missing Fish is a folktale, and given that even this issue is at least 20 years old, I doubt the author was ever officially published during his time. So we won't sell it to her for money, but we'll lend her it for free? As mentioned before, the book's content and writing style are rather obscure, and it takes a lot of time to fully grasp its meaning. You might be disappointed if you expect to find an exact piece of information that you're looking for, but online search engines have come a long way. Our ability to search for information and find it quickly has long exceeded everything we used to think was possible. Cecile could be looking for something very specific, something so peculiar that it may only be found in this particular book. Such a young girl suddenly developing an interest in ancient religious practices for no apparent reason? What a strange world we live in. Cecile hesitates for a moment, maybe because she still feels guilty. Sir, would you believe me if I told you something? Try me, please. That really depends on what you're going to say. Just know that you don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. But if there's anything you need to get off your chest, I'm happy to listen. I can fully understand why you wouldn't want to talk to your classmates. And some things need to be talked about or they'll eat you up from inside. Bullseye. Her pale fingers clench the book tightly. Recently, I've been having some very strange dreams. Oh? Most of them are horrifying, so I'm really scared. I dreamed of a gigantic fire rising from the sea, engulfing an entire island. Many small animals lived on that island, but they all disappeared in the blink of an eye, swallowed by the flames. There was no trace of them left after that. In another dream, I saw men dressed as in ancient armor. They were fighting. They held swords and spears and stood together in huge groups. A large squadron of cavalry rushed towards them on the hillside. There was blood everywhere. The men who weren't on horseback were shouting and screaming. I couldn't understand the strange dialect, but they were speaking Chinese. I also dreamed of a huge plaza surrounded by buildings. Foreigners wearing hexagonal star badges stood together in a dozen lines and were escorted to trucks by soldiers. There were mothers in tears holding onto their babies. The soldiers showed no emotions. They knocked the cowering women to the ground with their rifles and then took their screaming babies. Before I started having these nightmares, I'd only seen scenarios like that in book illustrations or on TV, but I also saw many things that I had never seen or heard about before. These aren't ordinary dreams, and I can't seem to forget about them. I remember them all vividly. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at describing how I feel. Did it all seem way too real? Cecile nods. They don't seem like normal dreams. Why would I have visions of such things when I don't even have that good of an imagination? I tried to write it all down. If there are realistic details that I couldn't actually know about, that would be all the proof I need. I see. So this time you had a dream about traditional native festivals. You wrote down what they were doing in your dream, and now you're looking for information that might give you some clues? To be honest, all literature as specific as this is both hard to find and hard to understand, even harder without some prior knowledge about it. There was a group of natives dressed in rags, dancing around an 8-legged fish made of straw. They spilled yellow wine on the straw heap and smeared blood on a child's lips. They were chanting a strange song that I didn't understand. I had no idea what they were singing at first because I'm not very familiar with the Cantonese dialect. But things became much clearer when I found out about the book. Cecile concludes her train of thought with a slight sigh. So she thinks that she's seeing real things, right? And she's trying to discover what it is she's seeing and what it means. Nearly all of the customers who come to Hermitage to buy books have a story. But to be honest, this situation is a little more complicated. The human brain has many different ways of painting pictures in our minds, dreaming being the most common one. However, for most dreams, there's a logical explanation. Once we drift into supernatural territory, that's when people get scared. But that's not the most pressing issue right now. I can't help but look back at her. Cecile is afraid of making eye contact, but she manages to raise her head to convey how sincere she is with her eyes. Whoa! Fucking hell. Sorry, that was really loud. She isn't being completely sincere, though. A half-truth is still a lie. I don't know if she realizes that. What isn't she telling us, then? Why did she tell us all of that and still hide something? I'm not angry. I can't blame her. In the face of uncertainty, she doesn't know who to trust and is extremely confused. Every situation is unique. For better or worse, I've accumulated some experience dealing with strange situations like this one. Going on like this will only lead to us running in circles. I need to find the right words, something a girl in her position can relate to. Now's the time to choose. Okay. Alright. So we can be straightforward. What else are you hiding? We can beat around the bush. I think there might be something else. We can bluff. Actually, the truth is, we can intimidate. Lying is not a good habit, you know. Ooh, what is she gonna respond to best? Beating around the bush? Maybe? Because I think she might, like... She probably won't like us being straightforward, even though that's what I think's a better thing to do. Bluffing's not gonna get us anywhere, I feel. Intimidating, maybe, but... Let's try this. I deliberately avoid her eyes, put out the cigarette butt, and take a deep breath. But there's more to it than that, isn't there? The girl's eyes widen as I call her out. Looking for information because you had some strange dreams? A nice idea, but only someone who went through the trouble of making up a story would explain it like that. But I didn't. Humans rely on subjective motivation. If a thing has no value, no one will grant it much attention. What? Let alone devote so much effort into studying it. I can tell you're a smart girl, but believe me, interest is a bad excuse. You can stick with that approach, but it's not going to work. I approach Cecile and look into her eyes. There's a lot of history hidden away here. Fate brought you to Hermitage. It's a special place. I hope you understand that. Cecile seems to be holding her breath. The girl holds tightly onto the book, her fingers caressing the corners. It's a sign of how many thoughts are going on in her head right now. Time feels as if it's moving slower. I don't know how long we're standing there, but after a while Cecile's eyes finally drift away from mine. Sir, you really aren't an ordinary person. And there's something going on here and I don't know what it is. Thanks. I won't shy away from a compliment if I get one, that's for sure. Cecile ignores my playful remark. She carefully puts the book back on the shelf, then turns to me with a serious expression on her face. It wasn't my original plan, but sooner or later I probably would have come here to ask you for advice anyway. I'm sorry for causing you so much trouble. I'm really embarrassed. Seems like you really don't know anything. All I can do is scratch my head. Playing dumb doesn't seem to be working very well. I want to believe there are still people willing to help others out there, so it's nice to see they still exist. You're an interesting person, surrounded by so much knowledge from all kinds of different sources. Most people would never believe me if I told them what I told you. I can take a rough guess at your situation. You can tell me your story. I'd like to hear the truth. The corner of Cecile's mouth turned upwards in a slightly bitter smile. Bitter? It's a harsh truth, though. I really didn't lie. those images are still in my head. But it's just like you said, there are other reasons why I'm paying such close attention to them. Cecile's tone of voice changes as she looks at me, but her eyes aren't focusing on me. I saw my best friend in my dreams. She's like a sister to me. Huh? She was lying on the ground, twitching, her face pale as snow. The ground beneath her head was covered in red. Blood was still pouring out of her. I couldn't see her eyes. Her right hand was completely mauled. She was trying to move. There was blood. So much blood, and The girl is getting more and more immersed in her vivid memories. She stares at me with blank eyes. I can see a figure reflected in her eyes, but it's not me. Cecile covers her face with one hand. She looks panicked. She uses the other hand to point at the ground, as if something were lying there. She kept trying to lift her head, but her neck was twisted too badly. She didn't react at all. I held her hand. Cecile enters in a kind of trance as she becomes fully immersed in the memory. Her facial expressions change to one of utmost dread, and her mouth starts moving strangely on its own. Words spill out of her mouth. She can't control it. She's staring. The eyes. Wait, eyes? Didn't she say she couldn't see them at first? Blood, her neck, those eyes, the eyes. Eyes looking at me, they're looking at me, staring at me, looking at me, gazing at me, those eyes. Oh my god. Oh my god. I clap my hands loudly in front of her face. Ah! She sits there with her arms wrapped around herself, shaking, frightened. What should I do? I gently put my hand on his shoulder. Calm down, calm down. So basically, this vision made you worry about your friend's well-being. Cecile nods. I can't bear the thought of her like that. It's so horrible. I'm really scared. The more I remember, the more Cecile leans against the edge of the bookshelf, her arms around her knees. So you decided to look for information on visions and hallucinations. You're trying to gain further knowledge about them, trying to figure out how much of what you're experiencing is connected to reality. No response this time, but the answer's clear. This is starting to get troublesome. Will you help me? Cecile looks up, a worried expression on her face. Her eyes are slightly red and swollen from holding back her tears. She looks so troubled. I can't leave her alone with this burden. So your interest was in fact genuine. That book, I thought maybe Okay, take it easy. I won't leave it on you on your own. However, if you really want me to help you, I need more information, some more details to work with. I feel like, have we done supernatural shit before, maybe? Who exactly is this friend who is like a sister to you? What's your relationship with her? Can you pinpoint when and where the vision takes place? More importantly, what exactly are these hallucinations? I know the situation is serious, but I still need to grasp the basic concept of it all, or I won't be able to help you. You're right, I will tell you. Actually, I often get bullied at school. I don't have any friends there, and they often pick on me in groups. They all think I don't deserve to be going to the same school as them, but they want to force me to leave. They don't talk to me, they steal my books, pour water in my desk drawer. They always try to make me angry or trip me whenever I walk by. The only person who ever stood up for me and told them to stop was her. Oh, they're such little assholes. Her name is Eloise. She's the president of the school's art club. Without her, I probably would have given up already. So she's the one that came in and turned the lights on, maybe? When did you two meet? Around the middle of September this year. Interesting. From what you told me so far, I would have thought you'd known each other for years. I wish that were the case, but I only transferred to Phoenix High School this semester. I had high hopes that people there would be nicer, that there'd be a sense of community. It's even worse than it was before. She sighs and looks as if she's holding back a frustrated laugh. It sounds tough. Is this art club somehow related to what you've been dreaming of? The floor in my vision is very much like the one in the club building, and Eloise often gets into arguments with the others because of me. She thinks the bullies are gonna kill her. Are there many conflicts within the art club? The situation between her and the others is very tense, even though she's a student representative. Don't the teachers have anything to say about all that? I mean, things like that could reflect negatively on them too. Truth be told, the teachers are more worried about the art competition. The preparations for that have their full attention. The what now? It's an art competition called the Yukai Cup. It's prestigious and the level of talent is very high. It's serious business. I don't really know much about those kind of things. What can you win? Prize? Money? No, nothing like that. Honestly, it's not even that big a deal. But I've only been around a few months. Many of the others multiple years. Their pride is on the line when it comes to facing off against students from other schools. So it's about honor. Every February, the Yukai Cup is the only thing anybody talks about at Phoenix High. We always score well in the competition. What has this all got to do with anything? Sounds very persistent if you ask me. They work so hard to prepare it that they're all stressed out. The atmosphere becomes unbearable and the art club turns into an emotional powder keg. So it's a regular occurrence? Just like me, Eloise doesn't have much of a presence outside the art club. Considering her calm personality, it's hard to imagine her taking the initiative and starting a fight with anybody else. That makes your visions even more strange. There's no plausible explanation for them. I would like to just write them off as simple nightmares, I really would, but I'm convinced there's more to it. Yes, I understand that now. It really makes me wonder. Like I said before, I see a lot of things in these dreams, although I don't think see is the right word to describe it. I can see, hear, and touch everything. It's as if I don't exist and I'm actually part of it all. That doesn't really add up to what you said before. Could you explain it again? How do you mean that? I'm not very good at explaining it. Don't worry, just tell me how you felt when it first happened. What was the first thing that went through your mind? Cecile thinks it over and opens her mouth to say something, but then shuts it again. She stays silent for almost a whole minute. Well, I think I was flying. Flying? So it feels as if you're flying through the air? No, it feels like flying, but I don't have any sense of self. I can observe everything from above. But my perspective certainly isn't from heaven. The only reason I say it that way is so I can describe it somehow. Last time, I saw the city's famous riverside viewing platform. A group of panicked people came running from the north right towards the people on the viewing platform. Luckily, security guards were nearby to handle the situation and prevent a mass panic. The people were shaken up and looked like they'd seen a ghost. They looked really frightened. All the same, they were such a small group that they were lost in a giant crowd of people. Hardly anyone noticed the uproar, and on the other side of the viewing platform, everyone simply carried on as usual. It's really scary how you can feel isolated and unsafe even when you're out in public and surrounded by so many people. Afterwards, I went to take a look at the place on my own. The surrounding streets and buildings were all familiar to me. They were just like in the dream. Even the street signs were the same. So she's definitely having visions. It's hard to imagine that without having seen it for yourself. Hold on. I've seen bizarre scenarios play out in my mind before, but until the visions of my friend, I never thought about actively researching what I'd seen. I often lose track of time when I have those visions. I have no sense of self, no Cecile, it's just one big blur of everything. Cecile describes the situation as if it were a good thing. I'm surprised she isn't smiling, what with how happy she sounds. Really? However, as soon as my focus shifts, I quickly lose that state of mind. The same as with a real dream? By the time I start to question whether or not I am myself, I'm already in a more conscious state, and it's only a matter of time before I return to reality. Well, at least you return to your senses at some point. A dream that can even put that fact in question is more than bizarre. Even if I wanted to help from somewhere, I'd have a hard time explaining it to them. Even if I wanted help from someone, I'd have a hard time explaining it to them. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. I'm very grateful. She bows her head and already sounds less tense. Talking is really important. I've never been very sociable. Too awkward, I guess, but I see where you're coming from. Anyway, I just want to understand what I see. After all, if my friend is really in danger, I need to find a way to help her. Do you think I'm naive for wanting to find out whether my dreams are real or not? Of course not. In fact, you're being so calm right now, it's remarkable. Let's take a small break. Do you want another cup of coffee? That was a lot. So Cecile is having visions of real life things, but she's just trying to verify that they are actually real life things, and if they are, what does it mean, why is she seeing them, and how can she prevent them? I think that's the gist. Cecile leaves Hermitage before the sun goes down. The hand she was holding the hot coffee with was ice cold, which I find difficult to comprehend. After Cecile's departure, the bookstore falls back into its usual silence. Only the books that are askew on the shelves show any indication that something happened here. Although, to be honest, it's probably more organised than before. Still, there's a lot of work to be done. I should analyse the information I have so far. It completely depends on how much Cecile is willing to tell me. We agreed to discuss it further tomorrow, but if she chooses to give up, there's nothing more I can do. Instead of worrying about that right now, I should focus my mind on the matter at hand. Stay calm and collected, and take plenty of notes. That's what experience has taught me over the years. Even strange events that can't be explained through common sense often follow some kind of logic. Okay. As long as there is sufficient information, I can draw conclusions. As more conclusions are drawn, an analysis of the events can be constructed. It's something I like to call the principle of reasoning. The audio is ridiculously loud sometimes. The things I see look so real, I can nearly reach out and touch them. Normally my imagination isn't as vivid. That's why I started memorizing the things I saw. How else would I ever be able to prove that they're real events? Presumed reasoning. Okay, how realistic are the dreams? I write down a question. Although her idea sounds somewhat naive, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. The problem is how to prove it. Even if Cecile finds matches between the dream and reality, there's no actual solid proof. People often get a sense of deja vu, and this experience, known as the sense of being present, has its own plausible explanation in science. In times of emotional instability, the frequency of deja vu experiences is increased. Or really, I get deja vu quite a bit. Like, well, not quite a bit, but when I get it, it's so weird. Like, it's really jarring. That might not be all. It's too simple an explanation, but when under stress, it's easy for the brain to mess up one of its delicate processes. The viewing platform Cecile mentioned is a pretty well-known sightseeing spot, so even if the architecture there gives her a sense of familiarity because of her vision, that's still no real verification. Past memories can often interfere subconsciously with the conclusion. She might have seen the place before, somewhere before. Yeah. But I mean, the street signs were pretty good. To answer this question, I can't solely rely on Cecile's one-sided information. The assumption that she didn't have any relevant knowledge beforehand can only be confirmed by a third party. I should take notes on what else she said she saw. The ancient battlefield, gatherings at the square. These scenes are bizarre enough, and there seems to be no explanation for them. That big fire she mentioned worries me as well. Considering the difficulty of the investigation, I only have a limited number of options left. Those things happening at Phoenix High School. Riots at the Riverside viewing platform. That's all the information I can confirm so far. It's puzzling either way, but at least I can try. There are more down-to-earth approaches to understanding what is happening in this city. If possible, I want to avoid involving any innocent bystanders. What do you mean, innocent bystanders? When I was conducting research on folklore in the remote countryside, I heard a lot about supernatural dreams. But there's a world of difference between an innocent high school student and witches. It's obvious that Cecile has already convinced herself of an answer to all this, but actually trying to prove it is something much more difficult altogether. The sky outside has already turned completely dark and I didn't even notice. The lighting inside Hermitage isn't optimal, but it's better than nothing. I turn off the dim lights on the ground floor, which hold more symbolic than actual value, lock the shop door, and make my way to the apartment. So we didn't get to... Oh, that's the end of the demo! So right, I feel like there's going to be more to the gameplay, but we didn't get to... So right, you know when we were in the menu and it was like conversation, bookshelf, case files and stuff. Like, I feel like surely there's going to be more to it, but obviously we didn't get to play with any of those mechanics. Thanks for playing this demo. So this was basically a full-on introduction to the story, right? I feel like I probably won't play the full game. It's a lot of reading, or like maybe just if I'm playing games like that, sometimes it's easier to just play it myself rather than like out loud, because it really takes a strain on your voice. But like I'm curious about, is it gonna have like things that you can solve? Is it like gonna be, because like for example we could choose which option we chose to say, like to try and get the information out of her. Will that lead down different paths, or is it very linear? And yeah, is it a kind of thing where we've got to gather clues to then solve it and then solve it ourselves, or is it all just a very linear story that we're just kind of going along for the ride with? It didn't really give us any indication which way it is, because we only had that one choice. But it's interesting. I feel like for me the dialogue was a little bit like that kind of dialogue where it doesn't feel like real people talking. It did actually feel more like a book or something, which is fine, but for me it just takes me out of the immersion a little bit, because I'm like, nobody talks like this. But it was just because some of the paragraphs they were saying was really long, and it wasn't really like a conversation. There was like, they kept on going off on little monologues. But I mean, I don't know how else they could have told that either. That's just, for my taste, it was a little bit heavy on the information, where there could have been a little bit more back and forth, maybe. But again, that is just me kind of putting my own personal preferences into it. Yeah, I like the atmosphere. I feel like the audio was very loud. I've turned it down a bit because sometimes it would just come out of nowhere. But yeah, I'm curious. It's more probably something I would watch rather than play myself. I think that's where I stand with this one. So yeah, that was Hermitage. Strange... Oh, I've forgotten the title. A Strange Case Files? Something like that. Thank you so much for watching. And we may have one more demo or we may not. I'm not sure yet. But thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I like the style of this game, by the way. It's really cool. They've done some cool things with, like, even just this looks really cool. And I like in the open menu when you can move it around and stuff. Like, I do like the whole style. So yeah, okay. Just before I go, I wanted to slot that in there. But thank you so much. This has been a really fun festival, as always. I love seeing what games are out there and what people are doing. And thank you for hanging out. If you've watched any of the demos, please let me know kind of what you think. If you played any of the other demos, what was your favorites and stuff like that. I'm always open for them kinds of conversations. So thank you very, very much, and I will see you next time. Bye.